Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Lance, good to see you. I think Delaney's waiting in the wings. And Happy New Year for those of you who that pertains. Hey, thanks to Biz2X for sponsoring this Coleman live stream. We'll be talking more about that between now and the end of the year. Number one, does a borrower have to make PPP loan payments while the loan is on appeal for a negative forgiveness decision? How do we do, Lance?
The answer is no, they do not have. So we did pretty good, 68% got it correct. When a borrower files an appeal, it goes back on deferment until SBA makes the decision on that appeal. I would like to tell you that the decision appeals quick enough to avoid the inevitable guaranteed purchase, which you can do 90 days after the appeal process starts, but doesn't happen very often. So you know, two things. One, the borrower, once they submitted a request for an appeal or an appeal application, the payments are still deferred. But the other thing to remember is once an appeal is submitted, you know, after 90 days has passed, you can go ahead and do a guaranteed purchase.
Joseph, can you go to number 3? Flip it. There you go. Thank you. Does the maturity extend? Is the maturity extended during the appeal? Does the maturity extend during an appeal? I don't know what we're trying to say, but I think you know.
Well, and they did good here too. I've not seen anything from the SBA that would indicate the maturity date would be extended during an appeal. Now, on PPP loans, you're servicing those loans according to the SOP 5057-2. You as a lender can extend the maturity on a PPP loan at any time. So you could extend the maturity date. Let's say you had a 2-year loan. It was approaching its maturity date. Of course, that is passed. Your 2020 loans have already passed their maturity date. But you as a lender, we had some loans that were 2-year loans. They were getting ready to hit their maturity date. So to avoid any problems with servicing and liquidation, talk to the borrowers, extended the maturity to the 5-year term. It gives plenty of time to work through servicing and potential guaranteed purchase. But an appeal, I've not heard anything anywhere that would say an appeal extends a maturity date.
And Lance, so what are these fully amortized over the 5 years?
The remaining part of the 5 years, that's the other thing is funny. You know, you've got a loan that was done in 2021, so more than a year has already been taken up. So most of these are the remaining amortization. Typically, you've got you got a 60-month loan, and you've got a 10-month deferment and a 24-week covered period. So basically, most of them are at a maximum 44-month deals.
I guess
Some
what
of
I'm
them are
asking
less.
you, is there any scenario where we would have a balloon payment at the end of maturity?
No, because SBA does not allow balloon payments.
So we're just re-amortizing.
But
okay.
You're just re-amortizing the loan. Now, something, again, you're servicing this loan according to the SOP 5057-2. So, and I know this has happened, so I'll bring it up. PPP borrower, great customer of the bank, gets a huge PPP loan. Does everything right. It goes back to SBA. SBA comes up with some magical calculation and says they shouldn't have gotten a loan that size to begin with. So your borrower suddenly has, say, a $400,000 balance. As an SBA lender, you could extend that $400,000 balance's maturity to 5 years, 10 years, whatever it'd take to make the payment reasonable for that existing borrower to repay the loan. So that is certainly something that could be considered. Now, In most people's cases, Bob, they're just trying to get the PPP loans out the door. So extending the maturity like that is not something that they're too excited about.
Joseph, we're going to skip 2. We'll hold 2 off until Friday. If you like this conversation, Lance, what are you doing on Wednesday?
Well, we're doing a webinar that is not as much a webinar, but it is an opportunity for you to ask questions about PPP servicing, PPP guarantee purchase, problems with PPP. There is a presentation, but this is a 75-minute webinar, Bob, where it works best. The first time we did it, Bob, we probably had 40 minutes worth of Q&A.
Yeah.
And so if you are a PPP borrower or lender, not borrower, although borrowers could sign up, I wouldn't stop them. But if you're a PPP lender, you've got remaining questions, remaining portfolio that you're working through. This is just an opportunity. Start jotting your questions down now. Get signed up. Come on. We'll answer the questions.
Just send an email to bob@colemanreport.com or joseph@colemanreport.com. We'll do all the paperwork. Hey, this just came in literally an hour ago, Lance. I know you haven't had a chance to fully read it. I haven't. There's a couple
Although I am looking at it as we speak.
There you go. This is on the PPP and SBA. The OIG did a defensive audit because these names pop up that they received eye-popping PPP loans. Goodwill got, as I said, we just got this in, but one got $5 million, one got $3 million. And they also checked another third one. So these 2 were there. And the takeaway on this, Lance, is even though they determined that the organizations erroneously in error received these loans because the lenders did not include an assessment, affiliation, or size standards, that the lenders are not liable. And that's what obviously we're concerned about. Lenders relied on the borrower's identity, affiliates, and the application certifying its accuracy. The lender is only required to do the following. Pause for page change. There we go. Smooth transition. Lance, we have a receipt of the borrower's certification. We have receipt of information about the employees and salaries. We have the dollar amount, and we have we're compliance with Bank Secrecy Act requirements. Do we need this type of clarification? Does this make us sleep better at night, Lance?
I don't think it really changes that much. What I think is concerning, Bob, I'm sitting here, this just came out before the show, and Bob and Joe shot it to me, and I started reading it just prior to the show, and I've read through it. So they're kicking out Goodwill and YMCA based on size standards. I understand. It is certainly for a lender to do an accurate evaluation of the various affiliates that would impact size standards. That's incredibly difficult on nonprofits like YMCA and Goodwill. While I understand SBA doing this, the rules were also very fluid, changing throughout time. I don't understand. I said I understand, Bob, SBA doing this, but I also don't understand. I can't imagine all the negative press this will create because it's Goodwill and YMCA.
Well, also the Goodwill operates more as a franchise operation. And remember, Goodwill is a retail store. And all those employees, their jobs are definitely at risk during the pandemic. Same with the YMCA. So again, we need to focus on the purpose of the laws was to save those jobs.
Well, and that's something I've even had this conversation with some reviewers in relationship to PPP loans that were partially forgiven. The whole purpose of the program was to prevent unemployment, to keep people on payrolls, to keep small businesses operating. And they're getting very deep in the weeds here in an effort to, I guess, prove to the Treasury and Congress that they're taking a hard look at these. But you're exactly right, Bob. They kept people employed. These are two great organizations. So it's kind of a confusing release to me.
Yeah, the third nonprofit is one with all sorts of traps attached to it. It was Planned Parenthood. So that obviously got a lot of scrutiny, and the Inspector General said their loans were fine. And so that's that. Anyway, we'll look at that a little bit more. There's some interesting things. Maybe, Lance, you'll talk about it Wednesday on the date for nonprofits. The takeaway is there is a separate analysis for nonprofit organization PPP forgiveness than regular for-profit small businesses. Is that did you pick that up, Lance?
Well, I think looking at affiliation and size standards was incredibly confusing, Bob. You have a small business Coleman report. Coleman report has 12 employees or however many. And so, it's real clear, real easy for a participant lender, take YMCA, Goodwill, Planned Parenthood, whomever. It's more confusing. There's offices all over the country, which ones are affiliates, but that's no different than restaurants, Bob. Some of these huge restaurant organizations, size standards were determined per location, not per the overall company. So a business with thousands of employees could have potentially gotten a PPP loan.
And that employee, whether they were...
I guess the hard part for me.
Yeah. But I was going to say that employee, whether they work for
companies like Ruth Chris.
I think we got a delay here. All right, let's bring Delaney in.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Lance. Delaney, are you with us?
Hello.
Hey, what are we talking about today, Delaney? What are these? First of all, these are, we know I love stats. We know we love stats. Who are the stats from?
So this is from the FDIC. It is their quarterly banking profile that came out, I believe, last week.
Okay.
So it's some statistics about all FDIC insured banks, and then there's some extra statistics about community banks. The FDIC found that in the second quarter of 2022, there was a 8.5% decrease in banks' quarterly net income. And over half of all banks reported that they experienced an annual reduction in quarterly net income.
Which means half the banks experienced an increase.
In addition, so net operating revenue increased by 6.2%. And when you break that down, there was about a 10% increase in net interest income growth, and then a very minor increase in non-interest income. There were quarterly commercial and industrial loans. They found that increased by almost $100 billion in the second quarter of 2022, and total loan growth for banks was 11.5%, and that's not including PPP at all.
This is a statistic near and dear to Lance's heart. What do you think about that? 0.75% of loans are 90 days past due. Is that a good number for the industry?
It's a good number for the industry, Bob, but I think the number is changing daily as we speak. And I think all the participants on this call today probably would chime in and say, yeah, that number's changing. We had little or no past dues. It's kind of ironic, Bob, almost no past dues during the pandemic and shortly thereafter, but now with multiple rate increases, interest rates are up 50% in the last 12 months. So huge impact on small businesses. So those past dues are growing.
And let's see what 85% of community banks report loan growth. And what I like is with the main story on this is the headline, no community bank failures in the second quarter of 2022.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And Delaney, when they say second quarter, are we talking annual or fiscal? I don't know. I don't know if you know.
That is something I need to look into because I was wondering the same thing. I want to imagine it's annual, but I would need to confirm.
Which makes sense. Yeah, the FDI is pretty good in getting those stats out. So this is as of June 30th. So we had, go ahead, Delaney, I'll let you finish up.
Sorry, I'm switching around some tabs.
No worries.
Community banks saw very similar themes. There was an increase in loans and leases that were 30 to 89% past due, but a decrease in loans and leases that were 90 days past due, which is good. Community banks saw commercial and industrial loan growth of about 22%, excluding PPP loans. So overall, it seems like the banking industry is doing well as of the second quarter.
As you said, this is different than the Great Recession, where banks were losing money and going out of business, and there was a real estate crash associated with the high unemployment. We are in a difficult economic time, but none of those three things have happened yet.
Yeah.
Next page. Oh, is that it, Delaney?
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty much a basic summary. You were talking about PPP a little bit, and the only other fact I have left here is almost 90% or over 90% of the total PPP loan balance has been paid off at banks.
All right, Joseph, go back to the slide on page 14. And I'm going to ask Lance a question. Okay, Lance, you're saying that 0.75% of loans and leases over 90 days past due. Well, I would say classify that as a great number. You're saying it's going up. Go ahead, Lance. How high is high? I'm going to spot here.
I always, during the Great Recession, during the pandemic, the past due numbers that we see reported seem lower to me than they actually are. But who am I to question the percentages? I'm just stating that, the comment I made earlier, Bob, interest rates are now 50% higher than they were at the beginning of the year, which results in significantly higher debt service coverage requirements on the part of small businesses. We're going to see more defaults. We're going to see more past due loans. And I think most lenders probably are starting to see some cracks in the portfolio as a result of that. Now,
all right, well, let me ask you this question then, since you skated around that one very nicely. Good job, by the way. I'm a chief credit officer, and I'm looking at loan reserves. What numbers should I plug into the spreadsheet? My portfolio delinquency. I mean, should I go? You said 50%, so should I go 1.25, 1.5?
And again, Bob, I hate to continue to get around. I just think the chief credit officer and the team that looks at risk rating and set-asides for potential problem loans, that number needs to be beefed up. There was even articles there were articles last week talking about regulators stating that banks are going to need to beef up their loan loss reserve. So it's just something to be aware of. And some of your institutions, Bob, may have portfolios with no problems. But I'm just here to tell you a $5 million SBA loan has a payment that is significantly, any size SBA loan, significantly higher today than it was a year ago.
Fair enough. I like your answer. We're not giving you a number. Beef it up and do your portfolio analysis, but it needs to be addressed. Very good. Hey, this just went up on Amazon. We now have hard covers, which is nice.
Oh.
This is the B&I loan regulations for 1RD guarantees for their initiatives. If you're a B&I lender or you're thinking about going into B&I, this is their SOP, for lack of a better term. Hey, we're running a little bit over. Lance, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Delaney, good job reporting. And again, thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. And again, Happy New Year. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us today for today's episode. If you like today's content, hit that subscribe button to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon to get notified about our latest videos. Thank you again for joining us today and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Catch you next time.